to starting.
We're live.
We're live. Hello, everyone. Can I see the room full of people? Should I be able to see that? Should I be able to see myself, Josh? Turn webcam off. Oh, I can see myself. I can see
Other
people in the room. All right, I'm going to assume that everyone is here. Josh, can you see how many people are here? Cool, awesome. All right, welcome everyone. Can you guys hear the sound okay? Hopefully. I'm Summer Huntington. I'm the founder of Kobo Yoga and Fit Body Wellness. I have a guest coach, Adrienne here. She's a Fit Body Wellness coach, and she'll also be assisting at our Optimizing Flow retreat this coming January. Very excited. Yes, so we have a really awesome and quick coaching webinar for you to enjoy, and we hope that you get a lot of information out of it. Our main goal at Fit Body Wellness with all of our clients is that we motivate, educate, and empower people to live the best version of themselves. So take this opportunity to get some new ideas for how to start getting more serious about a home practice, getting some specific goals, understanding how different tools work, RAD Roller tools, Myofascial technology, barefoot training. And Adrienne's going to go a little bit into her background on structural medicine, which she is currently in graduate school for. So I'll give her the floor in a bit here. So I just want to share quickly why I made this video. I wanted to give people a way to really organize their training and to avoid sporadic training. I also wanted to help give them a template to help them get really specific with what their goals are. So for my personal practice right now, I'm training for a TAC-FIT seminar with Coach Alberto Galazzi, which will be in October in California. And there are specific physical requirements to becoming TAC-FIT recertified. And even though I'm a head coach at RMAX International, I still go through that process of recertifying every year. And it's really an important thing to me to be able to demonstrate competency in all of the TAC-FIT exercises. So that's my specific goal and what I'm training for. And then, Adie, what are you currently training for?
I am always working on inversions and hand balancing. Currently now, I've progressed onto hand canes, which is very exciting, but it's taken a long time. I've done inversions for probably about 4 or 5 years now. And when I actually first started out my first yoga certification, 200-hour, I didn't even know how to do a headstand. But a big part of progressing through all of that has been things like self-myofascial release. Obviously, my graduate program in structural integration, having people work on me in school is a huge benefit. But essentially, simply put, that's getting everything aligned where it should be so that when you're upside down, you've got weight bearing on your hands, you're not kind of imbalanced, right? Like the banana butt or things kind of knocking you out of kilter. It's just slow and steady process.
Can you tell us about the banana butt? It's not a very technical term.
So the banana butt that some people will talk about would actually be an anterior tilt of your pelvic floor. So let's say you come up and you see someone's butt or low back is starting to tip more behind their shoulders or their arms. And then maybe to counterbalance that, their legs are then pointing off the opposite direction. So instead of having a neutral pelvic floor the way you would when you're standing, you're tilting it all back and kind of spilling back behind yourself, which you get a lot of flopping when you have headstands, forearm stands, all sorts of stuff.
Awesome. And you've been starting to do a little bit more educational videos on your Instagram, I've noticed.
Yeah.
What's your Instagram handle? If anyone wants to jump
Move with Adrienne, all one word, and it's ADRIENNE. And I'm more than happy to always take requests if people have things that they want to learn or things that they're stuck with, hurdles that they're getting to. Let me know, and I'll try and be as formative as I can for you.
And training hollow body on the ground, has that been a big part of your inversion practice?
Definitely. Hollow body on the ground. I kind of call it prone handstand holds, integrating that hollow body position. So that's, again, really bringing the pelvic floor neutral. So your ASIS would not be pointing the kind of pokey hip bone part of your hips when you're laying on the ground. Instead of having them pressed to the floor, you're kind of pulling them back. And so almost in a way that your low back is totally flat. It could almost be considered a posterior tilt of your pelvic floor. And then with that, you're reaching the arms forward, your face down, forehead is to the ground. And the only things that are lifting are your kneecaps with the press of the tops of the feet on the floor. And you're pulling the low pelvic back, the low belly back away from the floor. The chest is down, and then hovering the arms up. So that's a lot of lats and strengthen the upper back. A lot more involved in that. Your traps and rhomboids, obliques. But if you have tight shoulders or any injuries, always take space. Start with a Y, as wide as you can, and then slowly, as you get the range of motion, you start to bring it straight like a handstand. A lot of times you'll see people, as they're starting out their handstand journeys, have Ys that they're supporting themselves with, a wide base of support, but eventually we want all the joints to stack above one another in one nice line.
So if you're going to get started with intervals on your belly, like prone and doing those hollow body holds, what would be a good starting point for how you would time that?
I like to balance things out. So if I'm going to do that front side, right, laying down and focusing on my whole front line strength and mobility, being on the floor, having that whole line, then I want to focus on spinal strength. So usually what I'll do is I'll switch between a prone handstand hold, and then I'll take my arms back and I'll come into what's called a locust pose, which is kind of like your Superman that some people will do for circuit workouts, but your arms are back and your palms ideally are either faced into your body or maybe up toward the ceiling. So it's kind of the way you would be in standing, just naturally with the arms to the side. And so lifting up, thinking about shoulder blades back, opening up the chest and using your glutes, a little bit of external rotators are turning on in the hips and lifting the legs up off the floor. So you're this nice little bow shape. And it's just the hips that are now down to the floor versus when you're in that prone handstand hold, you're kind of pulling them back.
Cool. So would you aim for like 60 seconds, 90 seconds?
It's as much as you can handle.
Everything turned on. You've got core, glutes, the torque created in the legs, torque created in the shoulders. Everything is firing. It doesn't look like anything's physically moving, but you're isometrically turning everything on. And I would say just start small. See if you can achieve 30 seconds to start. And if you're someone that's coming to this webinar to get some motivation for a home practice, start with 30 seconds. That's a building block to help initiate that motivation, find that intrinsic motivation to start training on your own.
And that 30 seconds can also be in and out, right? You don't have to actually hold each individual exercise for 30 seconds straight. You can do 5 seconds in your prone handstand hold and 5 seconds in locust until you've completed 30 seconds, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And then you get that ability to be doing kind of priming yourself and conditioning, doing in and out, so that your nervous system does have the journey, not just getting to the pose and holding where you think you are, where you might see yourself as being, even though your structure might not be there quite yet. So you get the opportunity to kind of grease up the wheels and go in and out of that.
Cool. Well, thank you for your insight on handstands. I look forward to more tutorial videos from you because I know that you've definitely seen amazing progress in your handstand work. So thank you for sharing. Let's transition into how to get started on a 4-day training wave. So those of you that are tuning in that are already CST or TACFIT certified, or you're familiar with those training protocols, the 4-day wave might seem like a no-brainer to you. It's simply no intensity, low intensity, moderate intensity, and high intensity. And that would be I call it the strict 4. So let's say we started our training on Sunday with no intensity, then Tuesday would be low intensity. Wednesday, actually, I'm messing that up. So Sunday, no intensity. Monday, low intensity. Tuesday would be moderate, and Wednesday would be high. And then you would continue on with that 4-day wave in a strict 4. So every week it would be kind of varied. There's other variations of that wave. So if somebody had a 7-day week and they wanted to be consistent on the 4-day wave and have that scheduled in so that every week they had consistency in what day they were doing their physical training, I would recommend having Sunday be a no and low combo. So you can do your no intensity, which is joint mobility and yoga, on Sunday. Then you could move into moderate intensity to get the week started on Monday, which would be doing interval training. Our specific programs are Primal 12 and Club Yoga Action Potential, which utilize many different high-intensity interval training protocols, such as a modem, AMRAP, 90-30, and various different ways to kind of get your heart rate up. Then you would go into another mod day. So you would do 2 mod days back-to-back, Monday and Tuesday. Then you would go high intensity. So now we've worked out mod, high, Monday through Thursday. And then come Friday is a no intensity day to recover, doing your self-myofascial release, your into flow. And then Saturday could be a low day. So that's another variation of a 4-day wave if you're somebody that wants to get 4 higher intensity workouts being during the middle of the week. And let's go into the no for a moment. No does not mean doing nothing, and it's not just brisk walking, although there are some medical benefits to that. However, we're talking about training your nervous system and training specifically to recover and release the residual tension that has accumulated in your training days. So I'll let Adie go into a little bit of detail about what actually happens when you have bound fascia, because this is something that she's studying a ton right now in her textbooks, and I'm sure she'll have an opportunity to just lay it out for you guys.
So myofascia, fascia is made up of collagen fibers and ground substance. So what you have then is kind of this webby, cotton candy looking thing on a microscope, which is the collagen fibers. And they all lay down like chipboard. So it's multi-directional, multi-planar. So you get all of this kind of ability to get tangled up and stuff. And then you've got ground substance, which is water, essentially. Synovial fluid is what we work on increasing in the joint spaces. So you've got mobility. The more water you got, the more suppleness you have, the more you can slide and glide the muscle bellies. The fibers are not getting as easily caught when the muscle bellies are coming over each other. And that water can fill the space, making you more mobile. So when you wake up in the morning and you feel kind of that tingly sensation when you're stretching, what you're doing is you're melting away, you're introducing ground substance into that space that laid down. Collagen fiber lays down when you're sedentary and when you're cold. So when you have an injury and you hold something really tight, or when you sleep and you're not moving very much at all, collagen fiber comes in and lays itself down. But then when you're introduced to heat or movement, why movement is so important and why hot yoga can be such an extra benefit to someone's movement practices, because you're increasing the rate at which you're introducing that ground substance into the space. So you're making yourself more watery. When you have bound fascia, you're more like chipboard. You're getting nice and tight, like
thick, leathery, like guy wires.
Yeah.
If you've ever given someone a massage in their like thoracic spine area, just feels like there's this thick, leathery straps. That's fascia, fascial density, myofascial adhesions that have accumulated and adapted. Their bodies are smart, and they will adapt to the load placed upon them.
And fascia is everywhere, literally in the body. Just kind of shows up and composes itself in different ways, but it can easily feel like bone. To some extent, when it's more, the ratio is higher on the collagen fibers end of things than ground substance. And that's when you get things like the IT band. That's a fascial seam line for the whole thigh. So that's why that's a lot thicker than the adductors on the inline of your leg. So you can just kind of feel for where parts have more give and where they don't.
And just a brief note for your no intensity days and your low intensity days. And actually, you could probably do it on your moderate and your high days. You're never going to do too much self-myofascial release. These are the tools that we use in the Fit Body Wellness Studio. This is RAD Roller, so visit radroller.com to check out all of their equipment. I highly recommend getting the all-in-one kit, which includes the famous RAD Roller, which is the double ball, which fits perfectly on the outsides of the facets of the spine, which can really help to release the myofascial adhesions in that area when done properly, which we'll go into a little detail later on. It also comes with the RAD rounds, different sizes. These are great for rolling the bottoms of the feet and even the hands. If you've ever had a student in class or a client, or even yourself, where you have trouble sticking your hands all the way onto the mat, and specifically in down dog, if the fingers start to bubble, you might have myofascial adhesions or tight hands. So really important to roll that out to be able to restore mobility and length in the tissues there. So my tips for you, because I want to give you practical tips for how you can start getting yourself organized on a 4-day wave. And I'm going to start as simple and achievable as humanly possible. So just start with 1 week. So if you want to start your week next week, so you have plenty of time to start thinking about it and visualizing, which is a performance enhancing technique to actually walk yourself through the process of going through a whole week of a 4-day wave. So you would literally take your calendar, it could be the calendar that you got at the bank, and just write out on those days your no intensity, low intensity, moderate, and high for 7 days. So using either of the variations that I just shared with you, as long as it waves through, or no low, mod, high, high, no low. So put that on a calendar And then comes accountability, so objective feedback. So my tip to you is, if you are able to stick to that 4-day wave and achieve the specified training on those days, for all 7 days, you get 100%. If you miss 1 day, knock it down to 90%. If you miss 2 days, knock it down to 80%. So subtract 10% for each of the days that you miss, and then give yourself a qualitative grade. And be honest with yourself. No one has to see this except for you. Check your adherence. And if you find that you are scoring a 60%, or you're just doing your moderate and high, you're not doing any myofascial release or low intensity days, which are really, really critical to maintain mobility and longevity, then start to identify the barriers that are preventing you from being able to stay on that 4-day wave, specifically things like time. That's the biggest barrier for people, is I don't have enough time. I say work out on the days that you want to feel good. If you don't have time to feel good for that day, or have a check-in with yourself, your own physical body that you're embodying, you might need to shift some things around to reprioritize or reclaim your morning time. So that might mean waking up 30 minutes early before you go to work. I guarantee if you start a workout in the early part of the day, you're going to have more energy than if you wouldn't have done that workout. Other things, common barriers are willpower and self-discipline, space, instruction, having adequate instruction. YouTube University is great. There's tons of videos and tutorials on there. But having accountability, or having a coach to work with, is an invaluable tool as well to help you to start establishing the intrinsic motivation that you need. And we offer online coaching. So if you ever want your specific coaching to these techniques, CST, working with club bells, improving your flow fit, improving your club bell yoga, get a hold of us. Fit Body Wellness, reach out, contact form. Reach out and get the support that you need. Do you have any specific tips that you have for people that want to get started with a movement practice? Anything that you kind of have as your go-to for motivation-wise?
I say focus a bit more on the experience than the result. So the results are really great for goal-oriented people, but if you find that you keep getting lower marks on that regimen, and also kudos to you for actually doing it if you do it, is focus on the experience. Like she said, the qualitative too. That can be journaling for you and kind of focusing on what is your experience when you work out and you do these regimens. Does it suck? And if it does, say it, talk about it, and keep going, because there's a lot to be said about that. And not necessarily just pushing through it, but exploring it, right? Getting through fascia, unbinding fascia, is not necessarily a yummy process, right? Usually it's yummier for the people that have more ground substance there. Mm-hmm. So give yourself that pat on the shoulder, and again, focus on the experience of it. If you're having fun with the workout, remember that. Make a note about it. What made it fun? Was it because you woke up earlier in the morning and you had more time in your day? Was it because you were surrounded by other people? You had an instructor that you vibed with? Focus on the experience of movement, less so than, having this perfect look or achieving this awesome posture.
And that's really your body's somatic feedback. Like when you experience an activity and you're really taking that into your nervous system from all of your senses, and not just the sense of smell, sight, touch, but really getting into the mechanoreceptors and your proprioception, these other senses that we don't often think about. By coming into contact with your somatic experience, you're automatically cultivating intrinsic motivation. And even if your feedback is negative at first, you're at least acknowledging that feedback, and then you can change your programming or get some additional coaching, or maybe modify some of the exercises or movements that you're doing, so that you can have a movement practice that's meaningful for you. And that's really what we want to get across today, is creating a unique program that sticks to a 4-day wave, trains the skills that you want to train, and also improving your skill set and training your nervous system and making it meaningful for you. Not just jumping on a treadmill, throwing some earbuds in, and disconnecting from your body, which definitely has been a trend. Yeah, pushing through the pain. That's not what we advocate at all. It's heightening the somatic experience so that you're continued to be motivated through that intrinsic value that you get from working out. And I find there's this minutes 12 through 18, whenever I'm doing my conditioning for high intensity interval training. I love that breakthrough point at the 12-minute mark when I go into my flow state, my body becomes more efficient. I can feel things starting to detoxify in my body. It's usually when I start to break a sweat, my breathing changes. So I look for that and anticipate it, which is a huge part of my internal experience that keeps me motivated to want to work out to a timer. And I just use the TacFit Timer app for clubbell yoga. I can actually use it for Primal 12 protocols. So I find that using a timer keeps me motivated. It's like having a little trainer.
TacFit has its own timer.
Yeah, TacFit Timer. Check it out. All right. Cool. Let's move on to the final bit about getting objective feedback. So Adie touched on journaling, which is huge. Start journaling and just writing it down, pen to paper. And I'm not talking about in your phone, like actually bust out a pen and write it down. And if you want to give yourself some numeric values, if you're that type of personality, maybe you're not. RPE, RPT, and RPD. So rate of perceived exertion on a scale from 1 to 10, rate of perceived technique on a scale from 1 to 10, rate of perceived discomfort on a scale from 1 to 10. So you should not exceed a discomfort level of 4 on a scale from 1 to 10. And ideally in your RPE and RPT, you should be hovering between 6 to an 8, ideally. And if you're not at a 6, then you need to regress the exercise to feel that you're at a higher level of technique. Right. Moving forward, RAD Roller. So I'm going to share a little bit about my experience with RAD Roller. It's been pretty awesome so far. I met these guys, the actual founders of the company at Wanderlust Whistler a few years back. I think it's been like 3 years since I met them in person, and it's been about a year and a half since they invited me to become part of their master trainer team, which is a really small team across the US, but they're broadening their team this year, and they are a really awesome homegrown company based out of Denver, but they ship their equipment all around the world. If you would like to get your own kit, like I said, use the discount code SH at checkout and you'll get 15% off any of your equipment. And I'm just going to share briefly how I use the tools. So I've been creating these joint mobility and yoga classes that combine self-myofascial release with the yoga and mobility that we do in Clubbell Yoga Awakening. And usually what I'll do is find 3 different areas to target that are all related to one specific joint. So I'm going to list off the combinations that I've been doing. You can definitely write them down. And if you want to reference, for now, you can reference the RAD Roller YouTube channel. There's about 52 and counting videos that are instructional videos from their trainers. So
lots from other people too.
Yeah, tons of different informational videos. And I'm curating a specific program that's going to tackle a lot of these, and there'll be hour-long classes with the self-myofascial release tools embedded in them. But for now, just get your kit ordered and start playing around on it and using the tools regularly. So I guess, firstly, I should share the technique. So when you use a piece of RAD Roller equipment, you firstly want to breathe for about 5 to 10 breaths. So you place it on the affected area using gravity. So ideally you'll be either on your back or on your stomach, or you might be applying the ball. For example, if I'm releasing shoulders, I'd be applying the ball and tractioning both down and then in towards the midline, and just holding the pressure and trying to get into parasympathetic nervous system tone by breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, sort of like a yoga style of breathing. After that initial 5 to 10 breaths, then we go into usually flexion and extension of the joint. So depending on what joint you're working, if you're working your upper middle back, you might be doing something like a partial crunch to apply the force distribution slightly differently across the vertebral. Well, I guess it's not touching the bone, it's touching the fascia that is attached to the outside of the vertebra, called the spinal column. So you'd be moving through flexion and extension. Then you could go into side bending, so lateral, starting with the simple and moving to more complex lateral bending. And I've been adding circular movements as well, which is a really awesome way to get the ground substance into the joint capsule and to help encourage the fibers to reorganize back into their smooth pattern and not be so connected and discombobulated as many of us have that kind of fascia. Do you want to share briefly how you use these at home?
I mean, I just with every client, it doesn't really matter, love to roll out the feet when we start out. It's a nice way to kind of verbally connect and check in, and then also just introduce more ground substance to the plantar fascia at the bottoms of the feet, because the more space that the foot has and all the joints have to kind of, expand into, then you've got more stability down on the ground. If you have this tight little compact suction cup little padding to be on, it's going to force you, bounce you back off. So that's really been vital for me personally. And then also, again, just rad rolling septums. So the septums between different muscles. So usually I'll kind of trace out like the deltoid, or I'll trace out my vastus lateralis, and follow along the different sides of that to help make sure that it's differentiating from the muscle belly near it, or that it's on top of, or next door to. So I kind of think about a lot of the structural integration work that I do on the table when I'm doing that for myself.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a really valuable tool, and it's motivating. And if you're at a level right now where you're not motivated at all to start a movement practice, a self-myofascial release program plus joint mobility would be a really excellent place to start, because it's going to decrease your pain over time, and it's going to help you feel more connected to your body. So getting some somatic awareness of where the areas of inflammation are hiding. Because sometimes our body will adapt and we don't even know an area is tight until we start using the RAD roller ball on it. And then, lo and behold, you get a wake-up call. But it's not meant to be painful, and we never advocate pushing through pain. So if anything is tight or too restricted to move on it, there's always different apparatus. Specifically, this is the Helix that comes in the all-in-one kit that you could use instead of the RAD roller connected if it's too intense for you at first.
And disclaimer, if you do use this, know that you may have some scratch-like looking bruises on your spine when you're done with it, which is intended.
Your whole back will look like
those things suction you, like cupping, if you've ever done cupping, which is super good because it increases circulation to that space. Again, movement, liquid, heat into the fat. But yeah, you might get some bruises or scratches.
And I've had so many clients like note that to me, and I just have to laugh because it is totally true. But it's literally, it's tactically picking up the superficial layer of the fascia and then just sliding it a little bit and increasing that ground substance, which is great. And speaking of rolling out the feet, we have another really awesome tool. I like to have tools that are backed by science. That's a big reason why I'm a fan of RAD Roller. Everything is backed completely by science. And I also have the Naboso technology. It's upside down. Flip it on over. Bam. So Naboso technology, own your dreams. Maybe it's backwards, but so I just want to hold up this mat really quick. So this is one of the first mats of its kind, and Dr. Emily Schleichel, who I actually met through the RAD Roller, she's also one of the master trainers for RAD Roller. She's also the founder of Evidence-Based Fitness Academy, which I like to be friends with people that do a lot of research because it makes my job a lot easier. And then they have all the research that I can then look into. So she is a podiatrist with an extensive background on barefoot training. And what she has researched is that this type of surface actually wakes up the small nerve proprioceptors in the bottom of the feet, which then transitions the load, which is initially placed on the feet. It's called tension stacking or myofascial tension stacking. So you're loading and stimulating all of those small nerve proprioceptors in the feet. And then that transitions up to the pelvic floor, which is the base of the core. So by training on the barefoot Naboso technology mat, you essentially can have a heightened experience of proprioception and wake up those nerve proprioceptors, which can increase your stability, coordination, balance, and strength. So I've actually field tested this. I took it to Spain and worked with it for 2 full seminars, which are 2 full weekends. The first time when I very first got it, I also had a lot of my students in Spain try it out. And it definitely takes a little bit of adapting because we're so used to kind of dumping into our flexibility on the sticky mats. So poses like downward facing dog, you're going to find that you actually have to create stability and create torque and fire the musculature in your rotator cuff in conjunction with your lats and your core to be able to hold yourself in down dog. You no longer can just dump into it, but you have to stabilize on it instead. I've also used it with our Club Bell Yoga workouts, and it's highly effective for really, you feel like your feet have kind of been like massaged at the end of the session, which feels really nice. We have so many small nerve proprioceptors in that area, and they're linked. The bottoms of the feet are also linked, if you study reflexology, to different areas in the body, so different organ systems. And what a better way to train than to be barefoot and get stimulation from those nerves. Have you used the Naboso a little bit in the
I have not, but it's a great thing it's around, because usually I just go barefoot outside on the ground or on the soil, because I get a lot more of a sensory experience than I do on a normal mat, for sure. So it's exciting.
Awesome. Well, definitely check out the research if you want to understand a little bit better about Naboso technology. Just give it a Google search, Naboso technology. There are plenty of different articles that Dr. Emily Spleichel has written, and she is a leader in the industry. She has trained over 20,000, she's taught and trained over 20,000 individuals through the various conferences that she teaches around the globe. And I'm a big fan of her work, and I'm really excited to start merging my Club Bell Yoga and bodyweight workouts onto this mat, so that my students can really have that heightened sense of proprioception as they're training. And if you ever practice Club Bell Yoga with me, you know that holding the club heightens your proprioception up top. So it's really creating the torque and activation in your shoulder girdle, your core, and your hips. So why not bring that in from the ground up and have it go the opposite direction as well? So we're really pushing the edge a little bit with the proprioceptive training, but I'm excited for this new frontier and this new opportunity to continue to merge the disciplines. So that's the main thing that I have. I guess I have one last thing on motivation that I wrote down for you. So if you're struggling with motivation to get yourself a meaningful movement practice, the very first step is having a space, having a zone. So do you have a zone at your home for training or doing bodywork stuff?
I do.
What is your zone like?
Therapy room. Awesome. I take the table down and make space for me to play in there. So I've got one of those double living rooms. And so it's where I pull the fascia.
So having your equipment out and not having it hidden away in a closet is a really great way to start motivating yourself to start a movement practice. So I'll often keep my RAD Roller tools out on the rug. I have ones that I travel with. I have ones at the studio. I have them all over the place. I don't go on a trip without the double ball for sure. But even just having your yoga mat out so that when you walk past it, at least you're looking at it and thinking about that fact that you could potentially start your movement practice. That's one thing that I recommend, is just getting your zone and just reclaiming one little section. It doesn't have to be big, just enough to put a yoga mat out and put your hands out across, like horizontal, has adequate room. And then using different things that you like if you like music, or if you like training outside, get to know your preferences so that you can create an environment. Going back to talking about the experience, like create an environment that you want to be in that doesn't feel like work. So heavy music or music that motivates you. Looking out a window is a really good way to train, because then you're able to gaze off into the distance, which helps strengthen your eyes. Those are the main things I recommend. Is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm definitely a big advocate for having fun and just play. Yeah, I also recently have just been kind of playing around with this image of the body's like an advent calendar almost. Like we're always opening up these new doors and layers of experience, and just kind of, areas that you tap into. People with the yoga practice will say, like my down dog is so different than it was 5 years ago. And it's because they've unlocked different range of motion and experience and awareness there. Like they're not thinking about just the most prioritized parts of their body and that movement at the time, because it shifts kind of like a domino effect. You get different movement and ability to sense and experience in your body. And no one knows it better than you. So just don't be afraid to explore it and have fun with it. And when you get into something and challenge yourself and go, okay, I'm in this pose, and now can I shift just one thing but keep everything else still? So in a down dog, that would be, can I keep my shoulders completely where they would be in space, and then just do tilts with my pelvic floor and anterior and posterior, and then shift and do that just with your rib cage, but keep your hips at the same hinge that you have.
Got the stability queen over here.
Yeah.
If you train with AD, you will become hyper aware of every single moving joint.
Static control. I'm the sloth and she's like the cheetah.
We're a good combo. Speaking of, we have one more awesome thing to talk about, our Optimizing Flow retreat that's coming up in January in Costa Rica. So we'll be holding a 7-day retreat where we're really implementing a lot of the stuff that we just talked about. So we actually will be on a 4-day wave for the 7 days that we're at Hacienda del Sol, which is based out of Guanacaste. It's on the Pacific side of Costa Rica. What you can expect as far as getting there, I recommend either flying into San Jose and then getting a second flight over to Liberia, which will be the quickest way for you to get to this very remote location. The Hacienda del Sol is not in a big town. It's actually in a town of about 200 people, I want to say, or maybe it's 2,000. It's a pretty low number. There's not any big businesses there. You're literally in the jungle. But it's a really great place to go to start a new regimen for yourself. And a lot of people go there specifically for their nutrition cleansing that they offer. So they specialize in ketogenic diets or ketogenic initiation, which they give you instruction for prior to coming to the retreat, and then they'll help facilitate that while you're there. They also do juice cleanses. They have a raw food chef who is one of the co-owners, Crystal Gallardo and Ramiro Gallardo, and they team up. He is a TACTA instructor and really big on CST and all of the flow systems, big on Cobalt Yoga as well. So he's really looking forward to bringing more of these type of training systems and master trainers into his facility. So we've got a lot of support with backing the systems. And what you can expect is basically an immersion. With every day, we'll be holding a 3-hour workshop, and Adrienne will be doing a specialty handstand workshop as well. I will be co-teaching, so you'll be getting information from both of us, which we've done at seminars. She has been assisting me at seminars and bringing a lot of her knowledge with structural integration, structural medicine into the seminars. So expect a high level of education and informative information that will help guide your practice. And just come with an open mind. Come with the idea that you want to start to allow your body to kind of purify and cleanse. Just being in that environment, being unplugged and out of the city, you'll notice that your skin will start to clear up. You'll notice your digestion will start to shift after day 2 or 3 with consuming all pure foods and lots of superfoods. And then having a regular movement practice that we'll be providing. And there's also additional yin yoga classes that are offered as part of the retreat as well. And then we'll also be facilitating special events like a big intention setting ceremony. We'll be doing a big bonfire together at the beginning where we kind of set our intentions for the trip and for that retreat week. Leading jungle hikes. We'll be doing a little mini fishing boat cruise, which is just like a sunset tour on a local fishing boat, and just being out on the water and tapping into that flow state. We've got a bunch of other activities planned, so I highly, highly recommend if you can make the time and invest in yourself and really learn how to have that embodied experience about optimizing flow. I highly recommend that you get in touch and ask us any questions that you have about the trip. I've been there a couple times, and I can't say enough about how amazing this place is. And I'm sure it will get more and more discovered as the years go by. It's kind of like a diamond in the rough right now, but it's going to be pretty big here in the up and coming years. It's very close to Nosara, but it has a lot to offer. And are you looking forward to the trip?
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. Yeah, and handstands won't be just handstands. We'll explore headstands and forearms and just forearm strengthening poses in general. And yin as well, and then who knows if we have the space for it, but those that are willing and open to it could do little mini sessions with me with structural integration to see what that feels like in our off time.
Cool.
So yeah,
wonderful. Sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope to make this a regular offering for you guys. And if you liked it, feel free to share it with your friends. We'll probably be posting this one publicly so that more people can get this information and get started on the movement practice. And comment below in the YouTube comment section about how these things are working for you once you get started on creating your 4-day wave and start integrating the tools that we've given you. Thank you so much. Namaste. And golf. And yes.